The story of the adulterous woman is one of the most poignant narratives in the New Testament, found in the Gospel of John, chapter 8, verses 1 to 11. This episode illustrates the mercy and compassion of Jesus in contrast to the severity of the law and human judgment. The relevance of this story is timeless, offering a powerful insight into the need not to judge others and to practice mercy, fundamental elements of the Christian faith. One morning in the temple, Jesus was teaching the crowd that had gathered around him. Suddenly, the scene was interrupted by scribes and Pharisees dragging a woman accused of adultery. They placed her in the middle of everyone, right in front of Jesus. The woman, frightened and ashamed, kept her head down, trying to hide her face from the surrounding crowd. The tension was palpable, and all eyes turned to Jesus, waiting for his reaction. The scribes and Pharisees, with the intention of testing Jesus, declared,
"Teacher, this woman was caught in the act of adultery. In the law, Moses commanded us to stone such women. Now what do you say?"
They hoped to place Jesus in a dilemma. If he said to stone her, he would violate Roman law, which prohibited executions without authorization. If he said to let her go, it would seem like he was disregarding the law of Moses. The trap was set, and the tension increased. The woman was surrounded by people who saw her only as a sinner, deserving of severe punishment. Her heart was heavy with shame and fear, feeling helpless before the crowd. Her mind was filled with confused thoughts about her imminent fate. The environment was charged with hostility and judgment, and she could barely breathe under the weight of the accusations. The scribes and Pharisees were determined to use this situation to discredit Jesus. They were aware of Jesus' popularity among the people and sought a way to weaken his influence. By presenting the woman to Jesus, they were confident that any response he gave could be used against him. The crowd waited eagerly, aware that they were about to witness something significant. Jesus, perceiving their malicious intentions, remained calm. Instead of responding immediately, he bent down and began to write on the ground with his finger. This enigmatic gesture made the curiosity and expectation grow even more among those present. The scribes and Pharisees continued to press him, demanding an answer. The woman, in the midst of the crowd, awaited her fate with fear, while the crowd anxiously awaited the outcome. When he finally spoke, Jesus' words were surprising.
"Let any one of you who is without sin be the first to throw a stone at her."
With this declaration, Jesus reversed the situation, challenging the accusers to reflect on their own imperfections. He placed the responsibility of judging and condemning in the hands of those who considered themselves righteous. The crowd fell silent, absorbing the depth of Jesus' words. The scribes and Pharisees were momentarily stunned by Jesus' response. They expected a direct answer they could contest, but Jesus had turned the situation upside down. The crowd also fell silent, surprised by Jesus' approach. Everyone was aware of the hypocrisy that Jesus had exposed with his simple but profound statement. While Jesus continued to write on the ground, the thoughts of the accusers turned to their own lives and sins. Jesus' declaration resonated in their minds, forcing them to confront their personal failures. The crowd began to perceive Jesus' wisdom and compassion, who had transformed a trap into a powerful lesson on judgment and mercy. After making this declaration, Jesus resumed writing on the ground. His calm and confidence contrasted with the agitation of the accusers. The woman, still fearful, watched sideways, awaiting the verdict. One by one, starting with the oldest, the accusers began to walk away. Their consciences weighed on them, and none of them considered themselves worthy of throwing the first stone. The crowd watched in silence as the accusers retreated. The woman, surprised and relieved, saw her accusers disappear one by one. Soon, she and Jesus were alone at the center of the scene. The silence was almost palpable, laden with meanings and emotions. Jesus, maintaining his calm, stood up and addressed the woman. His approach was full of compassion and kindness, contrasting with the harshness of the accusers. He asked the woman,
"Woman, where are they? Has no one condemned you?"
She replied,
"No one, sir."
Then Jesus said,
Then neither do I condemn you. Go now and leave your life of sin.
The woman, now relieved and grateful, felt the weight of judgment dissipate. Jesus' words were not just forgiveness, but an invitation to transformation. She was called to change her life and live according to the teachings she had just received. The crowd, still silent, reflected on what they had witnessed. Jesus' approach had left a deep impression on all present, challenging their perceptions of judgment and mercy. The accusers, as they retreated, were confronted with their own faults and sins. Jesus' declaration forced them to reflect on their lives and actions. None of them were without sin, and this truth prevented them from proceeding with the condemnation. The crowd, witnessing everything, was also forced to reflect on the nature of judgment and mercy. Jesus, remaining calm, waited until all the accusers had withdrawn. He then stood up and addressed the woman. His approach was full of compassion and gentleness, contrasting with the harshness of the accusers. The woman, still frightened, raised her eyes to meet Jesus' welcoming gaze. The woman, now relieved and grateful, felt the weight of judgment dissipate. Jesus' words were not just forgiveness, but an invitation to transformation. She was called to change her life and live according to the teachings she had just received. The crowd, still silent, reflected on what they had witnessed. Jesus' approach had left a deep impression on all present. He had challenged their perceptions of judgment and mercy, teaching them a powerful lesson on compassion and forgiveness. The woman walked away, no longer as a condemned person, but as someone transformed by the grace and mercy of Jesus. The story of the adulterous woman teaches the importance of not judging others. Jesus demonstrated that mercy should prevail over harsh judgment. He challenged those present to examine their own lives before condemning others. This lesson is a powerful reminder that everyone is imperfect and in need of mercy. Additionally, the story highlights the practice of forgiveness. Jesus not only saved the woman from execution, but also gave her a new chance to live a better life. Jesus' forgiveness was an act of compassion that transformed the woman's life, offering her an opportunity for redemption. This message of forgiveness is central to the Christian faith. If you found inspiration in the story of the adulterous woman and the lessons on compassion and forgiveness, we invite you to reflect on how these truths can be applied in your own life. Share your stories of compassion and forgiveness in the comments below, and help inspire others with your testimony. Don't forget to like this video, subscribe to our channel for more uplifting content, and share it with friends and family who could benefit from these powerful life lessons. Join us on the journey of deepening our faith and finding strength in the practice of mercy and forgiveness, always trusting in God's goodness and wisdom.